Good morning. This is Pat O'Connell calling to order the regular weekly open meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. For those of you tuned in on the internet, the state of New Mexico is dealing with some internet connectivity issues. So we've got all the elements of this working except for cameras in the hearing room. So we've got access through Zoom for those of you who've signed up for public comment on Zoom, is my understanding. And we have a room full of people here in person. What we don't have is the camera. So if you're on Zoom, you can see that we're here in person. So anyway, that's a bit out of our control. And then last week was St. Patrick's Day. So reflecting on Murphy's Law, the PRC corollary to that is all this stuff happens on Wednesday. So anyway, bear with us and we will proceed. So Michael, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Aguilera.
Present.
Commissioner Ellison.
Present.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Present.
All three commissioners are present.
Thank you. So we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance and state pledge. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of the agenda. The one thing I know of from the agenda that got posted Friday afternoon is we're going to defer on the regular action item agenda, case number 21-00064 UT. Just new information has come in that got posted in the docket, and so we're going to consider what to do with that. And push that item off to a future meeting. Is my proposal. Commissioners, do you have any other suggested revisions to the agenda?
I do have one. Let me just get organized here. There is matter 22-00058-UT. This is on the PNM grid mod motion to disqualify the hearing examiner. I think this was added to the regular agenda because staff thought I might want to speak about it, but I actually don't have anything to say other than what's in the order. So I don't know if you guys are wanting a presentation on that, but if not, I think that could be moved to the consent agenda.
Commissioner Ellison, do you have any proposed changes?
I don't have any changes to propose.
Okay, so I move that we proceed using the agenda that was posted last Friday with the following changes. From the regular action items agenda, item case 22-00058 UT will be moved to the consent agenda. And item 21-00064 UT is going to be tabled for consideration at a future date.
I second that motion.
Seeing no disagreement, we'll proceed with the agenda. Okay, so next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes. We have two sets of minutes in our dodgy internet. Minutes for February 22nd meeting and the minutes for the March 1st meeting. Commissioners, do you have any discussion on approval of those minutes?
Just wanted to note that yesterday evening, I made a few housekeeping changes to them. Nothing of real substance, and Mr. Mueller has adopted those changes, I understand.
That is correct, Commissioner Ellison. I am in receipt of your revisions. They are non-substantive in nature. I have loaded the February 22nd red line into board effect. And also incorporating the March 1st ones into board effect, and those will be the ones that are voted upon for approval.
Thank you. So hearing that, I move that we approve the meeting minutes for the February 22nd, 2023 meeting and the March 1st, 2023 meeting.
Seconded.
Seeing no dissent, the minutes are approved. So next item is public comment. Hans, I'll turn it over to you to give us the order of commenters.
Thank you, Chairman. I currently have 12 individuals who have indicated that they would like to give public comment. My understanding is that they are all making their comment on Zoom remotely. I am unaware if anyone is currently present in the building that also wishes to make public comment. If there are, if someone could advise me accordingly, but the people I have that indicated are all on Zoom. Since we have 12 people, the commission does reserve the right to limit public comment to 3 minutes. So if everyone that has signed up could please adhere to that. I will be running a clock timer in the background after you have been introduced. And if you hit your 3 minutes, I will politely ask that you conclude your commentary at that time so we can continue to move in orderly fashion. I will start, I'm gonna go down the list basically in order of requests here. Let me just get my clock ready. First up, Talia Sanchez. Let me just check to see if, yes, who I am seeing online. Talia, if you could go ahead, unmute yourself and proceed with your commentary. And I'm seeing that she was there a second ago, but now it looks like maybe the connection is lost. I will come back to her. Laura Lucero.
Thank you. My name is Laura Lucero, and I'm a member of the Progressive Democrats of America, the Central New Mexico chapter. Yesterday, we met to discuss the PRC's rehearing of the proposed Avangrid merger. So I'm speaking today on behalf of PDA. Regardless of what anyone thinks about the merits of this proposed merger, this second bite at the apple stinks. It's no secret that Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham supports this merger and recently appointed new PRC members. The previous elected PRC members made a decision following an extensive public process in which all parties in the public participated. Anyone not satisfied with that decision-making process has a judicial process available to air any grievances. To short-circuit the judicial process and return to the PRC, where the only change that has occurred is a change in the membership of the PRC, stinks and violates any basic notion of fairness, the rule of law, and due process. The decision of the previous PRC members must be respected. Whether or not any of you have expressed an opinion about this merger, the timing of this rehearing and reconsideration has the appearance of favoritism and taints the credibility of the PRC moving forward. We urge you to reject this proposal to place the matter back in your laps. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, I have from the city of Hobbs, Sam Cobb and Manny Gomez. Mr. Cobb or Mr. Gomez, would whoever wants to go first.
Good morning. This is Finn Smith. I'm speaking on behalf of Sam Cobb. I'm a city commissioner for the city of Hobbs, District 1. If I may proceed.
Yes, Mr. Smith, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name, as I said, is Finn Smith, and I serve as city commissioner for Hobbs, District 1. I'm also the president of Watson Truck and Supply, a local company that's celebrating its 80th anniversary this year. I'm here today to request your early consideration of the Integrated Resource Plan, or the IRP, for Xcel Energy. Our local community and its industries are one of the key drivers for economic prosperity and growth for our state. Power generation is also in the midst of technological changes that a few years ago seemed unimaginable. Xcel has been a great partner in the growth of our area and has shown a willingness to invest in infrastructure to help us improve our economic opportunities. They would like to continue to move ahead with the investments they are making to be well prepared for the opportunities we have in front of us. Please consider the economic fuel that our community provides to the state, combined with the company that wants to invest its capital in the state. And I think that you will find that allowing early submission of the Xcel IRP will provide a great benefit to all citizens of New Mexico. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, I have Terry Mola.
Good morning. I'm sorry my camera doesn't work. But thank you for acknowledging me. I've lived in Albuquerque on and off since 1990 and finally retired here a few years ago. One of the things I love about New Mexico is our abundant sunshine and access to natural resources. I'm very impressed with the governor's commitment to the Energy Transition Act, and I feel strongly that New Mexico should lead the nation in moving forward to a carbon-free future. Sorry, something was going on in the background there. I know this commission will likely be considering the Avangrid purchase of PNM. I support this 100%. I read in the news a few weeks ago about Avangrid buying $30 million in solar trackers from the Albuquerque company Array Technologies. I think that was a very positive move for our state. I've also done my own research on Avangrid, and they are one of the leading renewable energy companies in the country. Clearly, there was political meddling in the Avangrid PNM merger before, but not on the JP Morgan and EPE buyout. That just doesn't add up. Let's not screw this up twice. I encourage the commission to approve the merger. I know it will be great, not only for the state's transition to carbon neutrality, but for jobs and businesses Avangrid will create in New Mexico. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your commentary. Next, I have Matt White. Matt, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to have a little bit of time this morning. I am the City Manager of Jal, New Mexico. I am here today in the support of the SPS request to file their IRP, a year early. It is important to our community and the local economy for SPS to plan for its future resource and needs in a timely and responsible manner. The city's water supply, our power supply, and its citizens' health and welfare depends on a well-planned and executed plan. The economic growth of our region is driven by the use of power, and SPS is critical to this situation. We support SPS request to file its IRP a year early. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. White. Next, I have Bill Williams. Bill Williams, if you are available, please unmute yourself.
Mr. Chairman, I am speaking on behalf of Bill Williams.
Okay, go ahead with your commentary. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I am Dara Dana. I am Chaves County Commissioner for District 1, and I too am making my public comment in support of XL Energy's request to file its IRP a year early. We believe, as the others have stated, in our economic growth and our community growth, that this IRP plan that they have submitted be filed a year early. And we would like to see that happen, and we hope that you will support that as well. Thank you very much for your time, and we do appreciate the public comments, and we do appreciate you listening to our communities throughout New Mexico on this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Rick Lass. Rick, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, commissioners, staff, members of the public. My name is Rick Lass, and I live in the Members Valley. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. I'd like to make a few points regarding the proposed merger with PNM and Avangard. First of all, this proposal is a zombie. It was killed already by the previous incarnation of the PRC unanimously. Thousands of citizens and residents took the time to make comments about the dangers of the merger, from the giving away of local control to an international power broker interested only in profit, to the criminal behavior of Avangard, and to the disingenuous claims of Avangard to be a leader in climate solutions. I'm disappointed that we have to do it all over again, though I hope for the same result, denial of this merger. New Mexico is blessed with tremendous wind and solar potential. That potential should be developed to help our residents afford electricity, not to enrich foreign investors who don't have a care in the world for us. My friends and neighbors are outraged and impoverished due to the high cost of electricity right now. That cost will not go down if this merger goes through, and it will probably go up. I am sure you have seen some of the examples of egregious behaviors of avant-garde in other locations where they provide electricity. I could go on and on, but I'll make one final point. Safety. Huge fires like the PG&E sparked devastation in Paradise, the blackouts in Texas 2 winters ago, and all of the weird weather that's being caused by our current model of huge centralized generators and immense transmission systems are the root of these problems. The answer is not more. The answer is moving to decentralized local generation and distribution systems controlled by local people and governments and run by small businesses and local entrepreneurs. Handing more power to an international corporation will not solve our energy needs, nor help people or the environment. PNM is a regulated monopoly and the PRC is responsible for regulating them. Please do your jobs and deny this merger. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next, I have Jennifer Grasham. Jennifer?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Grasham, and I am from Hobbs, New Mexico, where I serve as the CEO of the Economic Development Corporation of Lee County. And I'd like to simply echo the comments of Commissioner Dana, Commissioner Smith, and City Manager Matt White. I'm making public comment today in support of SPS's request to file its integrated resource plan a year early. We know that that is critical to our local economy, that SPS is allowed to plan for its future needs in a timely and responsible manner. So I ask you today to please grant SPS's request to file its IRP a year early. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Jennifer. Next, I have Ben Smith.
That may have been me. It's Finn Smith. I apologize, but I think that was me, Hans.
Okay, I had you down too as well, Finn. Just making sure that I didn't have two different names.
Well, if there's a Ben, I apologize, but I think that's me.
No problem. All right, just checking one more time for Ben Smith. All right, Stephen Aldridge.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the sake of avoiding repetition and redundancy, I would agree with Jennifer and Commissioner Smith and City Manager Matt White. I am the mayor in JAL, excuse me. We have a great working relationship with Excel, and I too support their request for the early submission of their IRP. It is an important economic driver down here, and I would like to go on record in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Now I'll circle back and ask Talia Sanchez. Talia, can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
Thank you. So I just wanted to also bring up the merger, and I wanted to talk more numbers and bring up that the merger will bring more than 30 million in benefits to the state, including direct savings to all PNM ratepayers, the guarantee of at least 150 jobs with the average salary of $80,000 and 15 million to economic development projects, 1 million to an apprenticeship project, and 1 million to STEM scholarships all around our state. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the list of people that I had signed up for public commentary. Just to double check, if there is anyone online that feels that they had signed up and I did not call your name, you can indicate as such now. Or if there is anyone that is in the hearing room, since I can't see anything today, that wishes to make public comment, if they could come forward. If there is nobody else, public commentary has concluded, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. So not seeing anyone standing up for public comment in the room, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. There are a couple closed meetings, and so we need to do recitations on those closed meetings. I will take the first one, which is item 6 on the agenda. So on March 16th, the commission met in executive session, which was closed pursuant to section 10-15-1 H2, limited personnel matters. I affirm for the record that the matters discussed in the closed session were limited only to those specified in the agenda for that meeting, specifically assessment of exempt positions, assessment of advisory staff applications, and discussion of hiring, promotion, and assignment of individual public employees. I further affirm that no official action was taken. So that's the recitation for item 6 on the agenda, and then I'm going to ask Michael Smith to read the recitation for item 7.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Microphone, please.
Someday I'll start singing. This recitation relates to the special executive closed session meeting that was held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. The executive closed session was conducted in pursuant to New Mexico statutes annotated 1978, section 1015-1 H3, deliberations in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding. That proceeding was docket number 22-00286 UT in the matter of Southwestern Public Service Company's application for a revision of its retail rates under advice notice 312, authority to abandon Plant X Unit 1, Plant X Unit 2, and Cunningham Unit 1 generating stations, and amend the abandonment date of the Tolk generating station, and for other associated relief. This confirms that the closed session addressed only the deliberations regarding the joint motion to extend the suspension period, and no formal action was taken in that meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next item as consent action items. Commissioners, do you have any discussion? Well, I guess we'll start, Michael, if you could read the captions for the consent agenda.
The consent action items consist of transportation matters case 23-00088 TRM in the matter of the application of Carlsbad Fire Department ambulance service for reissuance of certificate number 12328 and temporary authority to provide ambulance service. That's a proposed order on the application for temporary authority. Then case 23-00084 TREN in the matter of the investigation of American Cement Corporation. That's a proposed order on staff's petition to cancel warrant. Utility matters consist of case 23-00017 UT in the matter of the formal complaint of Tom Olson against Public Service Company of New Mexico. It's a proposed order requiring PNM response and staff reply. Then case 22-00099 UT in the matter of a commission rulemaking to promulgate amendments to NMPRC Rule 17.1.2 NMAC, applications for new rates and new sections in Rule 17.3.510 NMAC and 17.3.610 NMAC to require annual reporting by electric and gas utilities. That's a proposed order closing docket. Then case 21-00154 UT in the matter of the petition for declaratory order or in the alternative application of San Juan Solar Project LLC for determination of right-of-way width for the San Juan Solar Gentie. That's the proposed order on San Juan Solar Project LLC's unopposed motion to transfer right-of-way with determination to affiliate. Then case 23-00046 UT in the matter of the application of El Paso Electric Company for continued use of its fuel and purchased power cost adjustment clause. That's a proposed order suspending the application indefinitely and directing utility division staff to file a response to the application. Then case 22-00140 UT in the matter of a commission rulemaking to promulgate a new rule in Title 17, Chapter 9, Part 571 of the New Mexico Administrative Code, renewable energy for rural electric cooperatives. That's a proposed bench request to working group.
Please don't forget the item that moved from the regular action to consent.
Thank you for the reminder. I did forget. The additional case is case 22-00058 UT in the matter of Public Service Company of New Mexico's application for authorization to implement grid modernization components that include advanced metering infrastructure and application to recover the associated costs through a rider, issuance of related accounting orders, and other associated relief. This is a proposed order on emergency notice that NMUS is motion to disqualifying hearing examiner Ryan is ready for decision by the commission and emergency motion to suspend the proceeding pending a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Commissioners, any discussion on the consent action items?
I don't have any discussion. I don't either.
Great. So I move that we approve the orders contained in the consent action.
I second your motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
The orders, the motion passes by a vote of 3-0.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a presentation by Hans Mueller from the Office of General Counsel on case 22-0023 UT. Hans, I see you there in Zoom land, so take it away.
Thank you, Chairman. This matter comes before the commission on the August 31st, 2022 filing by New Mexico Gas Company for its application of approval of its 2023-2025 energy efficiency plan, and upon the recommended decision issued on February 27th, 2023 by hearing examiner Angelica Allen. The proposed order that I have put before the commission for consideration and approval would adopt the recommended decision in its entirety. This was, as the commission is aware, there were some exceptions that were filed to the recommended decision, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law that were in the recommended decision are found in paragraph 12 of my proposed order. I will not go over those individually right now, but those are listed out as part of the recommended decision. The exceptions to the recommended decision were filed on March 7th, 2023 by the Commission's Utility Division staff, and there was a joint exception filed by the Coalition for Clean Affordable Energy and the New Mexico Office of the Attorney General. As I noted, any exceptions that are filed to a recommended decision under 1.2.2.37 must specifically set forth precise portions of the proposed decision to which the exception is taken or response to the exception is made. It must include the reason for the exception or response, And it must include authorities on which the party or staff relies and specific citations to the record in the form required by 1.2.2.34D NMAC. Staff had raised 3 exceptions: that the incentive mechanism requires the achievement of an annually cost-effective energy efficiency portfolio based on actual expenditures on energy efficiency made by the company, and is based on a sliding scale incentive mechanism. That the commission should implement staff's recommendations for New Mexico Gas Company to attempt to incorporate cost-effective electric heat pump measures, because such measures, if cost-effective, would meet the efficient use of energy standards for approval. And that the commission recognize the apparent incongruence between the Efficient Use of Energy Act, the commission's currently approved rules, and stated policies and goals for greenhouse gas emissions in New Mexico. The joint exception filed by CCAE and the OAG raised 6 exceptions: limited contentions about greenhouse gas emissions that the recommended decision cites from their witness testimony, partial exception to the hearing examiner's adoption of the incentive proposal suggested by staff, as the CCAE and OAG recommended the performance incentive be set at a meaningful level to push NMGC. Partial exception to the hearing examiner's recommendation that the commission require New Mexico Gas Company to revise its income qualified program to address the weatherization waiting list. Partial exception to the recommendation that the commission consider opening a docket for rulemaking on the variables in the utility cost test in Rule 17.7.2 NMAC. Partial exception to the recommendation that New Mexico Gas Company include in its annual report the success of the plan. And finally, 6, the exception to the conclusion stating additional collaboration is not recommended at this time. For the purposes detailed in the proposed order that I put for you for approval, I have individually listed why the commission should not find that the exceptions identify an exception that would prohibit the commission from approving or adopting the recommended decision issued. And thus the order that I put before you would adopt, approve, and accept the recommended decision in its entirety. And we also make a finding for staff that there were a variety of rulemaking suggested for consideration by the commission, that we are going to indicate to staff that they may, we are not requiring staff to, but if staff believes that our current rule should be amended based upon their review and findings, staff may file a petition to open rulemaking with the commission accordingly, based upon the recommendations that have been presented in this case. With that, I will stand for any questions to my order. If the commission wishes to discuss individual findings of the recommended decision, or question how hearing examiner Allen came to her conclusions, I would recommend that the commission vote to go into executive session so that I can contact hearing examiner Allen and review any questions of that nature in executive closed session. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any discussion, commissioners?
Hans, can you just briefly mention the costs here of the energy efficiency and the benefits that would be provided?
Gladly. I added that to paragraph 10 in my order. This plan and that has been proposed by New Mexico Gas Company proposes an energy savings goal of 4,531,970 therms at a budget of $14,993,203, rising to a total of $13,595,910 therms by the end of the third year plan 2025. New Mexico Gas Company estimated non-energy benefits of 48 million gallons of water annually and a reduction of over 263,250 metric tons of CO2. The budget is approximately 4.2% of a 3-year average of actual billings, which falls below the 5% cap.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, what would be the ramifications if we were to delay the vote on this order by a week?
I do not believe there would be any ramifications. I am aware that New Mexico Gas Company has requested us that they really need to start implementing this in April, to start coordinating with their business partners. So a 1 week, I do not think would have any ramifications. I had just indicated to them that I would put this as promptly as possible before the commission.
And when did this process start on, working on this 3-year energy savings plan?
If you're asking when New Mexico Gas Company started working on its application, that information I do not have. I can only really do the timeline from when they submitted their application.
Yes, I mean after the application submittal.
Okay. It was submitted on August 31st, 2022. The commission acted rather promptly and assigning hearing examiner Angelica Allen on September 14th, 2022. There was quite a bit of discovery requests that went on. The public hearing, let me just scroll. Give me one second and I can pull up the full timeline for review here.
I guess while you're doing that, Mr. Mueller, I wanted to point out that, if we consider a therm to cost roughly $1, of course, the natural gas prices are going to fluctuate, but, that's kind of a rough estimate for what gas cost in February, about $1 a therm. So, on the face of it, we're spending $15 million to save $4.5 million worth of gas in year 1. And then that rises to look a little better in year 3, where we're spending $15 million to save $13.6 million worth of gas. I do understand that a lot of these investments are, rebates on new appliances like more efficient boilers and water heaters that are going to have some payoff over many years. And so, looking at year one or even year three may be not the best measure. But on the face of it, it doesn't seem great. And I guess it all comes down to how this UCT, this utility cost test is done, whether it makes sense. I think, they are doubling the amount of money spent. It was $8 million in the past 3 years, and now it's about 16 million. It's still within, what the legislation has set. I think previously it was set at 3%, and now it's between 3 and 5%. And I think they're just over 4% of revenue, if I'm not mistaken.
And just quickly make a comment to that. I just want to point out that there are other benefits as well, like saving 48 million gallons of water annually and reduction in CO2 emissions. So it's not necessarily like an apples to apples comparison. And I guess I would have a question for Hans as to whether the budget provided here of approximately 15 million is for all of the benefits combined, or whether that is reflected in the other.
Yes, let me, if I may, let me go ahead and break that down for you. That is captured on page 25 of the recommended decision, but I think it'd be easier if I just screen share right now. Because it'd be a little hard for everyone to follow along if I did that. So this breaks down how that 14,900,000.
You make that a little bit bigger. Sorry, I'm bad eyes.
Let me, yeah. Is that better, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. As you'll see, the program is, and the 14,993,000 is based on the following programs: water heating, space heating, new homes, income qualified, multifamily, efficient buildings, home energy reports, and portfolio costs. So that is spread across those programs, with each one's total program budget indicated accordingly in this column, adding up to the 14,993,000.
Hans, I have a question for you. Can you explain why this case is on a regular action agenda item? I know back on the March 8th meeting, we approved SPS's energy efficiency plan on a consent agenda, which I thought was appropriate because we've been working on energy efficiency plan since at least 2007, and there's been kind of a process that has built up over time to where the energy efficiency plans end up being fairly routine. So I was just wondering, is there something remarkable about this case that put it on the regular action agenda as opposed to SPS's plan that was on the consent agenda on March 8th?
Certainly, Chairman. It's my recollection that the SPS matter, there were no exceptions filed to that. So it's standard practice of the Office of General Counsel to, if exceptions are filed, to at least make sure those are brought to the attention of the commission. And we normally do that in regular agenda so that we can identify which exceptions were filed by which party. So that is the standard practice of us. So I think that's what differentiates SPS in this case and why I put it on regular agenda.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Any more questions for OGC? And any discussion?
You know, personally, I appreciate the opportunity to review it, and I'm glad it was on the regular agenda. I don't know that I have any objections, but I found it useful to go through the materials and to think about whether we should routinely just approve these, or whether we should say that's good and maybe we'll approve it for a year, but we want to see something better for the next 2 years. So just my thoughts about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One thing that I did see is different about this order than previous energy efficiency cases that I've looked at is recognition that perhaps we need to do rulemaking. And it sounds like this rulemaking addresses some of the issues that you've identified, Commissioner. Also just the fact that the rule is written in kilowatts, which doesn't seem to make much sense for a gas utility. So I guess I draw a little comfort from the fact that the order recommends a rulemaking, and one of the things I was going to do in this meeting is, we've got quite a few rulemakings that we've talked about over since January. My list is renewable riders. We're also talking about rate case settlement, tolling provisions in the face of settlements. Now we have energy efficiency rules that would need to be updated, so they include gas utilities. I know staff is working on renewable energy with co-ops through a workshop process that was on the consent agenda that we approved here. I also know that having worked with our rules over the last few months, there's probably a few updates that need to happen for the commission's rules just because there's 3 of us and not 5. So to me, that's quite a body of rulemaking. I don't see any of those that I don't think is important. So I was going to ask our chief of staff to take a whack at laying those rulemakings out in an efficient, orderly process and make sure we have staff assigned to launch those rulemakings and get them noticed well and proceed correctly. So anyway, that was my takeaway when I read this is a pretty routine energy efficiency plan, follows the pattern that's been established. We do need to look at things, this case showed a need to at least think about TRC for gas utilities, and it also highlighted there's just some things wrong in the rule related to gas utilities. So with that, I was going to propose that we go ahead and adopt the recommended decision, because I also am sympathetic to the need to get these programs launched on April 1st.
Do we have a second?
Not sure I made a motion yet. I was waiting to see if there was any reaction to or discussion of what I just said. Not seeing any, I guess I will move to accept the recommended decision presented in this case.
I will second your motion.
I think we're ready for a vote. Michael, if you would please take the roll.
Commissioner Aguilera, Aye. Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Aye,
motion carries vote of 3-0.
thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, presentation by Ms. Judith Emer of Office of General Counsel related to matters within SPS's ongoing rate case.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This matter comes before you in case number 22-00286 UT in the matter of Southwestern Public Service Company's application for revision of its retail rates under advice notice number 312, authority to abandon the Plant X Unit 1, Plant X Unit 2, and Cunningham Unit 1 generating stations and amend the abandonment date of the Toll generating station and other associated relief. On March 10th, the following parties and interveners filed a joint motion. Utility Division staff, Louisiana Energy Services, LLC, Federal Executive Agencies, Occidental Permian Limited, and New Mexico Large Customer Group. Subsequently, the New Mexico Attorney General joined in the motion. From this point on, I'll call them the joint movements. They filed a motion for extension of time of the suspension period, tolling of the suspension period, and for a new procedural schedule. The motion was filed in response to a March 6th SPS filing of a list of corrections pursuant to 17.1.3.19C. Just to point out that the second procedural order required the filing on March 3rd, 2023, but SPS did not timely file the list of corrections on March 3rd because SPS filed after 5 p.m. on March 3rd, and pursuant to Commission Rule 1.2.210C, filings outside of regular business hours after 5 p.m. are deemed to be filed as of the following business day. Therefore, the filing was deemed to be filed on March 6th. In addition, the list of corrections failed to comply with the second procedural order insofar as it referred to exhibits which were not attached. Subsequently, the exhibits have been attached. And as of March 14th, 2023, approximately 8 days after March 6th, SPS filed a notice regarding exhibits to list of corrections, stating that those are the exhibits that should have been attached to the March 6th filing. In general, the corrections stated that the revisions result in a net decrease to SPS's projected revenue deficiency by approximately 1.2 million, approximately a 1.6% decrease from the projected future test year base rate revenue deficiency. According to SPS, the changes do not materially affect SPS's original filing as the term is used in 17.1.319A. That is the future test year rule that is applicable in part. There are other rules applicable, but that rule is applicable in this matter. It's entitled Changes to Initial Rate Application. And in A, I'll read it because it is important to the decision in this matter. It says, during the rate proceeding, the commission shall consider the utility's proposed revisions, if any, to the originally filed future test year period. The utility shall timely notify the commission staff and interveners of any proposed revisions due to errors, changes in law, or other changed circumstances that decrease or increase its requested revenue requirements by an amount that materially affects its original filing and shall provide detailed sufficient explanations for the proposed revisions. For the purposes of this section, materially affects means proposed revisions that decrease or increase the utility's originally filed jurisdictional revenue deficiency or surplus by 5% or more. In addition, Part C of this same rule, 17.1.319, states that revisions provided by the utility through errata, which appears to be what has happened in this case, or in response to discovery requests that do not require the filing of a modification by the utility. B, the previous section states that if you're in the 5% range, the utility needs to file a modification. But so C is applicable here because it's a revision that does not require the filing of a modification by the utility, shall be incorporated into a comprehensive list. And this is an important part, with detailed sufficient explanations for the revisions filed and served. And it needs to provide reasonable notice to all parties, is before the date staff and intervenor direct testimony is due under the procedural schedule. Such revisions shall be presented as adjustments to the utility's original presentation rather than as a revised presentation. And again, this is important so that the adjustments are verifiable between the original presentation and the revised figures. At this point, I can go through what the joint movements objections are, but I would like to note that pending before the commission was a late filed opposed motion filed by staff for leave to file a brief in reply to Southwestern Public Service Company's response in opposition to the joint respondents' March 10th, 2023 filing. And the reason that staff is filing this reply as of yesterday was because there was a filing made by SPS on March 20th, and staff wanted to clarify that what the problems still exist with the list of corrections. That being said, replies are not allowed except by leave of the commission. So I think the commission at this point, because I'd like to go into what the reply stated, but the commission first would have to permit staff to file this reply as of yesterday.
Any questions on that, commissioners?
I think just procedurally, I'm a little confused by that. I don't see why they can't just file the comments and then we decide whether to accept them or not.
Well, pursuant to the commission rule 1.2.2.36C1C, replies to responses are not permitted except if the commission grants a motion for leave to file a reply. So that's standard procedure before the commission. Motions can be filed. A response is automatically permitted, but replies are not automatically permitted unless the party files a motion for leave to file a reply. So staff is following the correct commission procedure.
Right. I understand that for purposes of whether we include the comments in the order. But I think for purposes of just discussion, I think that's where my question is, why can't we just discuss it and then determine whether, yeah.
I believe you could discuss it, but I also believe that at some point the commission would need to make a determination as to whether or not they granted or denied the motion for leave to file the reply.
Agreed. Thank you.
So I guess the question before us is whether to accept the late filed response that happened outside the room.
Right.
Correct.
And given that it was filed late last night, I think for me, it would be appropriate to discuss it and then determine whether we would accept it, for example, if they provide new evidence. But right, we can't know that until we talk about it.
Correct. And so if you would like, I can go through what, briefly as I can, what they said in their filing. They filed a brief. And I believe that the reason it was filed yesterday was based upon the fact that SPS filed a class cost of service study on March 20th, only on Monday. So upon that filing, staff felt that they needed to immediately file. And that's what I can deduce from the timing. I just want to state that SPS opposes the filing of staff's reply and the other parties support it. But according to staff, SPS has stated that its list of corrections is similar to what gas company did in case number 21-00267 UT. However, according to this pleading, it is not at all like what gas company did in that case. And staff refers to the rule C, which I just stated, that adjustments are verifiable between the original presentation and the revised figures. And according to staff, gas company observed that requirement, but SPS has not. For instance, gas company in that case provided access to an updated Excel model reflecting the changes to gas company's filing, and gas company filed approximately 1,690 pages of showing updated model runs. So this did allow staff and others to trace and verify errata changes and the resulting effects and ramifications. Staff says that unlike gas company, SPS just filed a list of corrections and thought that that was good enough. That staff disagrees that with SPS's statement that the other parties have had plenty of time to piece and puzzle through and otherwise put SPS's list of corrections into a verifiable context. And in addition, it goes on to state that staff believes that SPS will point out that its class cost of service study model that they filed on Monday, which apparently, but of course it hasn't been verified yet, supports and connects to the March 3rd list of corrections. Staff anticipates that SPS would say that that makes everything okay, but as far as staff can determine, SPS's latest class cost of service study was not filed with the commission or served in accordance with the certificate of service. And it came 17 days late after SPS filed its list of correction. Further, according to staff, the information SPS provided does not result in SPS's revised revenue distribution or proposed rates. So for all of these reasons, staff maintains that subsequent corrections made by SPS in intermittent trickles, dribs, or drabs is not acceptable. And they make the following observations, which are similar to the observations they originally made in their joint motion. So reading this will let you know what they said in their joint motion was that staff had difficulty accessing the native files that were initially provided in the corrections. SPS did not adequately support its list of corrections at the time of filing, chose not to file its errata to correct its testimony, attachments, schedules, work papers, and discovery responses, and that now the burden falls on staff and the interveners to track the corrections and identify any incorrect data. Specifically, SPS did not run its corrections all the way through rates and did not provide its proposed revenue increases by rate class, and did not provide an updated rate design based on its corrections. Therefore, staff, the other parties, the commission, the hearing examiner cannot see the full impacts of the corrections. Again, it places the burden on staff and the interveners to attempt to track and incorporate the corrections. Nevertheless, according to the joint movements, SPS still maintains it does not want to delay or extend the schedule for staff or interveners to do that. In addition, as noted in the March 10th joint response and joint motion, SPS points to revision in the number of customer bills. However, SPS made numerous other adjustments to billing determinants that are not related to the changes in number of bills. And SPS did not explain these changes in its corrections, nor did it adequately do so in its discovery responses. In its discovery responses, SPS only identified how each change was made, but did not provide a detailed explanation and justification for each change. So for all of these reasons, the reply was filed. And they continue to request that the suspension period is extended. They requested an additional 3 months, and they requested that the procedural schedule be modified accordingly. I think at this point, the proposed order would grant the joint motion to the extent that it would extend the procedural schedule by an additional 1 month, that the hearing examiner would immediately issue a new procedural schedule in accordance with that ruling. I can go through more reasons why the basis for this, but I would like at this point to open it up to discussion to the commissioners.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I've read through all of the papers and your proposed draft order, so I don't have any questions on that, but want to make sure each commissioner has opportunity to ask you whatever questions they have on what you've provided.
Just to confirm, the most recent version of this order is the one with the
Green,
the text in green that's
that's correct.
an eye test.
Yeah, it looked so good on my screen. And then when I printed it out, it's like, what was I thinking? But yes, that was prepared yesterday afternoon, uploaded into Board Effect. But I printed it out to make sure that everyone had the same version.
In a nutshell, this late filing by staff essentially provides more background information and justification for staff's position, which is the same to request the 3-month extension plus a tolling of the
Yes,
suspension period.
yes, they haven't changed their request. They're just renewing the same request.
Well, I don't have any questions on what you've provided, but just I had a visceral reaction to this whole thing and had to reflect on why that might be. And you know, this is a rate proceeding, and when I read the law, our responsibility in rate proceeding is to produce a reasonable result. And then when I look at what came before us in this case, I see ridiculous. And so finding reasonable in and among ridiculous is a bit of a challenge. I mean, we have this joint motion that's asking for infinite tolling without a legal authority to do that. And then we have a response from the company where the company knew, based on the future test case here, that corrections were in order. And what they did was a very, at best, minimalist approach to making corrections. You know, they chose one bit of the rule to follow and apparently ignored the other part of the rule that requires fully functioning electronic documents. So I just don't see anybody in this issue with any attempt to be reasonable. And so that falls on us. I realize that's our job. And with this order, what I'm hoping we're proceeding with is something that's reasonable. So, you know, it's March, so basketball's on my mind. So I apologize for the analogy, but you know, shooter's mentality is if I'm in the gym, I'm open. That's unreasonable. So when you're bringing stuff to the commission, you also, I request, would think through, how is this even approvable? So I don't think I saw that from anybody included in this case. I also think it's kind of ironic that both parties are pointing at another case, New Mexico Gas Company's rate case. And I agree, that was a reasonable process, but nobody's, you know, they're both pointing to that example, but nobody's living by that example. So anyway, I just wanted to share that as I unpacked what led me to an emotional reaction to what I saw here in this case. So having said that, I'll go ahead and move that we adopt the order you've proposed. So that's my motion. I also want to share that I firmly believe owner owns the float. So in the face of ridiculous behavior, we are the commission using some of our flexibility if this order is approved, and I don't give that up lightly. So again, I'm moving that we accept the proposed order, but just want to make sure people know that we're trying to be reasonable here to fix a ridiculous situation.
I second the motion.
Can I just have or make a clarification? Because I think Ms. Amer had a question about whether we were going to approve or deny the response. I believe that the response has not made it into the draft order, and therefore by approving it, we would be denying the response because we wouldn't be including it which is fine with me. I just want to say that I appreciate the response, even though it won't be reflected, it appears in this order. But I appreciate that, it came in late. I did see a few elements of new information. Ultimately, I don't think it changed, any of our positions. But anyway, just wanted to clarify that for Miss Amer, because she'll need to. So with that, I think we're probably ready for a vote.
Please do.
Just to be clear, the order would partially grant the joint motion in that it would extend the suspension period by 1 month, and that the procedural schedule would be accordingly revised by the hearing examiner.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification. Please take the roll.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. So next item on the agenda is also Ms. Amer's presentation. It's case number 23-0073 UT.
Yes. This is in the matter of Southwestern Public Service Company's 2023 Integrated Resource Plan for New Mexico. And it originally came before the commission upon a March 1st, 2023 notice of intent filed by SPS, notice of intent to file its 2023 Integrated Resource Plan, known as an IRP, and a conditional request for a procedural variance pursuant to 17.7.3.17. On March 8th, the commission ordered SPS to file a response, which SPS did file timely on March 15th, 2023. No other entity on the certificate of service filed any pleading regarding SPS's response. In response to the March 8th order for further information, SPS stated that its requested variance is based on unique circumstances that have arisen since its last IRP, which impact its resource needs and its ability to provide adequate, reliable service. SPS points out that the following changes: the new IRP rules may require longer timelines to get from the filing to getting the actual resources online. There have been changes in SPS's resource mix affecting units, load growth projections, and resource adequacy related requirements. This is from the SPP. There have been changes to SPS's TOLC analysis and its revised TOLC optimization plan, resulting in it has a pending proposal to abandon TOLC by December 31st, 2028, which is accelerating its retirement by 4 years because it was originally going to be retired in 2032. So that drives resource needs. And SPS asserts that it will have substantial energy and capacity in 2028 if it could commence its IRP now. And it has a variety of factors, as we just stated, such as existing and aging retirements, load growth, SPP resource adequacy requirements, and this TOLC retirement acceleration. And for all of these reasons, for reliability and sufficiency of resources, SPS requests it be able to start its facilitated stakeholder process on March 31st and file its IRP on October 1st. The proposed order would find that based upon this March 15th response, good cause exists for the commission to allow SPS to commence its 2023 IRP process in April, so that SPS will be able to continue to transition its fleet without any disruption or inhibit progress towards the renewable energy standards. The proposed order finds that SPS has fulfilled all the elements of 17.7.3.17 for granting a variance. However, the proposed order does find that given the fact that the commission will need to complete logistics of procuring a facilitator and having that procured facilitator prepare a schedule and agenda in consultation with SPS, that it needs 2 weeks, that SPS's 6-month notice of intent should begin on April 15th, 2023, instead of the requested March 31st, 2023. And that SPS's IRP should be filed on October 15th, 2023, instead of October 1st, 2023. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Amer. Any questions or discussion on this one?
The IRP process would begin as of April 15th, if this is approved, correct?
That is correct. So that would give the commission 2 weeks to procure a facilitator and have the facilitator prepare a schedule and agenda in consultation with SPS. That's a very short time frame. And I do know that Art O'Donnell did request to state something before the commission, but it's your choice, of course.
Yeah, I've been in conversations with Art throughout this, and I understand the logistical hurdles. I would prefer to have granted it starting April 1st, but this situation isn't something the commission anticipated. Have a responsibility to provide a facilitator. It'll be hard to meet the April 15th date, and frankly, you're going to have to work with the SPS on that process to make sure it works. So I don't think we need to hear from Art unless you have specific questions for him.
No, I just wanted to state that, you know, this acceleration by a year is obviously not extremely convenient for the commission, given that we're going to have PNM's IRP process in parallel. But I do believe that our overriding concern should be, you know, what is in the public interest. And I do think that SPS has made a good case that that there could be a risk of resource insufficiency if they do not have adequate time to go through the IRP process and procure those resources. So, you know, for that reason, I'm inclined to support this this order.
I just want to piggyback off of those comments because I agree with all of them. Yeah, I don't want to discount the argument of, you know, the overlapping IRPs. It will be difficult to manage for staff and some stakeholders that might be participating in both programs. These are valid concerns, you know, considered under variance element number 5. However, the benefits created by allowing this variance outweigh those concerns, and so I absolutely agree with granting the variance.
Yeah, hearing that discussion, I'll go ahead and move that we adopt the order proposed in this case.
I second that motion.
You third that motion, Mr. Michael, we go ahead and take the roll.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner Ellison,
Aye.
and Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Ms. Amer. Okay, next item on the agenda is case number 23-00074 UT with a presentation from Mr. Fisk from Office of General Counsel.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is a matter that we've discussed quite a bit, so I will keep my hello, testing. Okay. So I believe all of you received last night the final revised version of the proposed order concerning Yellowbird Solar's motions. That is an order that incorporates all three of the commissioners' revisions as of yesterday. And as I've described the order, it provides two different possible outcomes. That's why there are two different titles, two different sets of findings, two different sets of ordering paragraphs, one highlighted in blue, one highlighted in yellow. Let's get that for me. I'm going to be speaking mostly from the order itself because the memo that was provided on March 13th, I think has the much of the information and background that we've already discussed. So I'll just focus on the content of the order itself. So there are two, as I said, there are two different sets of highlighting. The first set of highlighted portions of the order in combination with the non-highlighted portions, which are just the general, background and recitations of facts that would be in either version of the order. The yellow highlighted version would be an order partially granting Yellowbird Solar's request for clarification as to eligibility of aggregated community solar facilities and requests for clarification as to acceptance of payments. And it would deny the motion for oral argument and expedited responses. So first I'll talk about that order. This order is recommended or is proposed by Commissioners O'Connell and Ellison. So I won't reiterate what's in the paragraphs describing the background, the non-highlighted paragraphs. And instead I'll go right to the page, page 8, which is where you see the, starting with paragraph 20, the findings that would support partially granting the two of the motions, which I've called the eligibility motion and the payment motion, while denying the procedural motion that would have instituted or would have set up an oral argument procedure and would have expedited this matter. So in paragraph 20, the commission would find that the program administrator, Incline, should be directed to review 4 of the applications that Yellowbird has submitted through the application window, the web window provided by Incline. These are the 4 applications that appear to be complete. They may not, but they appear to have, Incline's cursory review of those 4 applications indicates that they may be complete. And those are identified in the commission's or in the order itself, the proposed order. as I'll just give the titles, not the bid ID numbers, because that won't mean anything to anyone. But the Cobrae School District, the Lordsburg School District, Deming / Red Mountain School, and Deming High Group. So I believe are all within P&M's, would all be projects within P&M's territory. But that instruction to incline would be contingent upon Yellowbird's payment of the application fees for each of those applications on or before March 28th. The language of the order of this version of the order would note that the 5th application that was submitted by Yellowbird for the Hatch School District, which I believe is in EPE's territory, is missing most of the information called for by the application form. There's, I think, only a couple of pieces of information that have been provided. So the instruction would go on to say, with regard to the 4 applications that would incline would be directed to consider, that incline should review and score the applications as incline judges reasonable, consistent with its review and scoring of other submitted applications, and in accordance with the rule and the act. Now, this language saying that the reviewing and scoring should be consistent with the reviewing and scoring of other submitted applications, you know, that's limited in the sense that Yellowbird is the only applicant that submitted applications for aggregated facilities. So certainly this will have, you know, some unique issues, these applications. But of course, that doesn't mean that it can't be consistent in ways that it can be consistent. So obviously, this would also note so that incline understands that this is not to any extent a pre-approval of the applications by the commission, that if any of the applications, the 4 applications, do not satisfy the minimum requirements for eligibility as per subpart 12B of the community solar rule, incline should so inform Yellowbird and should not proceed to score any such applications, because scoring, incline does not need to proceed to score any applications that for which minimum eligibility requirements have not been met. And then it would note, incline should also cease review and scoring of the applications if Yellowbird fails to pay application fees in a timely manner and in accordance with this order. I'm just realizing that I'd remove that sentence, because Commissioner Ellison's revision last night was change the language such that incline should not begin reviewing and scoring the applications until Yellowbird has filed or provided its payments. So I recommend getting rid of that last line that was from the old version of the order. And I'll get to that in a minute, so if it's not clear. Sorry about that. Okay, moving on. The reason I'm reading through these is because these are very compressed findings, and I think they address quite concisely, you know, not only what the order would require, but the issues and what the commission is deciding and not deciding here under the yellow highlighted version of the order. The commission would note that it does not interpret the act as EPE does in its response to the motions filed by Yellowbird as preventing the consideration of proposed projects consisting of aggregated facilities for participation in the statewide community solar program. EPE had argued that in particular, the definition of community solar facility that's provided in the Community Solar Act indicated that there couldn't be multiple facilities within a single project. And as we discussed, I don't see that as a reasonable interpretation of the acts, because even a non-aggregated facility project would, you know, presumably consist of multiple units, multiple panels, which would be, and I think the language that that the definition uses is device, and it uses a singular. It says that a facility shall, be supplied by a solar photovoltaic device. And I don't think that can be reasonably interpreted just because they're in the singular of addressing this issue of aggregated facilities, because I think even the other types of projects that have been applied for, they're going to have multiple devices. So I think EP simply read too much into the that definition. So I don't think the Act's language itself prevents proposed projects consisting of aggregated facilities from participation. And then this would go on to say, neither does the commission interpret any language in the April 2022 order. This is concerning Yellowbird's request for clarification that it submitted to the former commission before Yellowbird actually had any particular projects that it had developed. This would say the commission does not interpret any language in that order as indicating the commission's pre-approval of all proposed aggregated facility projects that are composed solely of new generation units. Yellowbird in its motions relied to a significant extent on a statement that was made in the commission's April 2022 order. That order actually found that aggregated facilities that include pre-existing generation units are not eligible. But there was a statement made in that order that this prohibition does not extend to aggregated facility projects that are composed solely of new generation units. Yellowbird does rely on that statement quite a bit. But, this would state that language cannot possibly be interpreted as like a pre-approval of any proposed aggregated facility project that's composed solely of new generation units, because there are many, many requirements in the Act and the rule that an aggregated facility project might not meet, just like a non-aggregated facility project might not meet all of them. So moving on. As Yellowbird admits, each proposed project is subject to all applicable requirements of the rule and subject to the scoring criteria of the rule. This order, as in the present order, should not be interpreted as constituting a pre-approval of any of Yellowbird's applications to any extent. The commission notes that the characteristics of Yellowbird's proposed projects, including characteristics due to their being comprised of proposed aggregated facilities, may impact incline scoring of the applications. So that's the end of the yellow highlighted version that would partially grant two of the motions. And it's just clarifying incline that this is not limiting incline's review. Incline will review, if the commission adopts this order, incline will review these four applications as it sees fit. And there's no sort of cabining in of the issues being provided by the commission. I can move on to the other order, the other version of the order, the blue highlighted version, or if the commission would like to discuss or ask questions about the yellow highlighted version, I can do that. Should I just move on?
Yeah, please do, and then we'll have a discussion of the two.
All right, so I'm going to do basically the same thing with the blue highlighted version. The blue highlighted version would deny all three of the motions. And in that, I'm looking at paragraph 22, the commission would find that the motions should be denied. Say Yellowbird requests that the commission find that Yellowbird's applications are eligible to participate in the selection process, subject to compliance with all express provisions of the rules at 17.9.573. That's the community solar rule. That's Yellowbird itself saying that. However, Yellowbird has not complied with all express provisions of the rule. Among the quote unquote minimum requirements for eligibility identified in the community solar rule are, quote, the bidder's payment of a $1,000 non-refundable bid application fee to the commission, as well as, quote, the bidder's completion of a utility pre-application report or an equivalent report by the utility, and a citation of the rules given. Yellowbird admits that it has not paid any fees for its applications. The purpose of the application fee is to cover the costs of the detailed application review undertaken by Incline, and thus it is a prerequisite to the consideration of any application. Even assuming arguendo that the rule explicitly allowed new aggregated facilities to participate in the community solar program, which it doesn't, just for the sake of argument, Yellowbird has not just demonstrated any extenuating circumstances that prevented Yellowbird from meeting this requirement. In particular, Yellowbird has not explained why it did not submit this application fees on January 30th or 31st, 2023, when it had access to do so. This is as per Yellowbird's own description of the facts. Further, Yellowbird does not address this deficiency in its motions. Moreover, Incline has informed the commission that Yellowbird has not submitted a utility pre-application report or an equivalent report for any of its proposed projects. And then it would reiterate that Yellowbird has also not demonstrated extenuating circumstances. So with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Any questions from the commission?
I don't have any questions, but I guess I would like to speak to the second option of denying the request for clarification. So I was the one who recommended this, and I have two separate concerns about granting the requested clarifications. First, there is a question as to whether the projects would require separate interconnections to the grid. This question has not been clearly answered in the proceeding, and this is demonstrated by the applicant's reach into the video recordings to try to piece together the argument. The commission speaks through its orders, and I'm not convinced that the plain language of the commission order allows or disallows new aggregated facilities. I think it is clear that the commission left that door open. That said, I am open to considering whether aggregated facilities should be explicitly allowed. However, I am concerned about doing so without vetting this policy through the rulemaking process. The question of aggregated facilities that use different interconnection points has not been studied in the rulemaking. For example, the Community Solar Act places caps on the number of megawatts and the number of projects a participant can have. Are we sure that allowing aggregated facilities would still result in a fair process for all applicants? I don't know. We need to think about whether the current rules would give an advantage to aggregators with multiple interconnections for aggregated facilities. We also need to consider what technical complications would need to be solved before allowing aggregated facilities. The Community Solar Act rule, rather, was not designed with, well, actually the act was not designed with aggregations in mind. So I don't think we should jump to a conclusion that allowing aggregations will be a fair approach for all participants. We in regulation, we tend to be slow and take incremental steps. I mean, we strive to be proactive, but there is something to be said for thinking hard about the policies that we are establishing. And I just don't think that we have done our homework enough to allow new aggregated facilities at this point. But again, to clarify, I am open to that. So that's my first concern. My second concern is that the applicants did not submit the application fee on time. And when I consider whether there was a good faith attempt to submit the fee. I just don't see that in the record. There was an opportunity to submit the fee, and even when the motions for clarification were filed, there's no indication in the record that the fees had been submitted. So there's that concern. And I am also not convinced that a motion for clarification is the proper vehicle for the February 2 request concerning the application fee. I believe what the applicant actually needs is a variance of the community solar facilities rule, because that rule requires an application fee and it was not submitted. And so I think the applicant should actually be seeking a variance, not a clarification. So I don't think that they use the right vehicle to for their request. So I did lay out a number of concerns, but even assuming for sake of argument that the commission's order explicitly allowed new aggregated facilities, I still can't get over the fact that the applicant did not submit the fee. Even though they asked for a clarification to allow them to move forward, they haven't explained why they didn't pay the application fee. The other applicants paid it. So I just wanted to explain where I am coming from with the second option.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's funny, I didn't know which of us had proposed which. So that, I mean, it's interesting when I was listening to that, because your commentary, you're struggling with very same issues I'm struggling with. I mean, it could be very cut and dry. You don't pay the fee, your bid doesn't get evaluated. That's just back to life in a bid evaluation process. Also, the thing that led me to the partial approval is the fact that we're not supposed to be involved in the bid evaluation. So that's my struggle, is failure to pay the fee just a threshold issue, so we're not getting involved in bid evaluation. What the partial granting does is, frankly, take this novel approach and make it Incline's problem to solve. I don't want to get into the issue of picking one bid over another, and I appreciated the language in the order that just, if we approve the partial grant version, we are not communicating that these bids should have any special status in the bid evaluation process. And then when I looked at the criteria that Incline has to use to evaluate the bids, frankly, I'm glad that we're not in charge of bid evaluation, because quality of the interconnection is one of the things you got to look at. And if you've got one bid with multiple interconnections, that is a problem that I'm happy to not have to solve. So to me, I guess that's what I'm struggling with, is if we go with denying the motion, it's because had a bidder that wants to be viewed as a legitimate bidder but didn't follow the basic step of paying the bid fee, or try to have some empathy for, this is the first time through this process. There are probably more combinations and permutations within the bids that we're unaware of, that Incline has had to try to figure out. So this is just one more. So anyway, those are the things that I'm struggling with, and glad that we have two choices in front of us, despite the work it took for Mr. Fisk to put that together.
I appreciate those comments, and I understand all of those points. I guess where I'm looking at this is, given that the commission in its previous ruling did state that the Community Solar Act doesn't expressly consider or prohibit this aggregated community solar projects. I am sympathetic that the applicant did find some basis for believing that their application would be supported. I also understand their claim that they were not able to access the bid filing screens until fairly late in the process, and that Incline was themselves uncertain about whether the aggregated facility would be would qualify. So, I guess I'm inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt here. But I would certainly agree that in no way are we communicating to Incline that that these bids should have some sort of preference. If we approve this, it's just that they would be accepted and scored as any other project would be. And I agree with Commissioner Aguilera that it would make sense to have some sort of a rulemaking around aggregated facilities, community solar facilities in the future. I guess I'm still not entirely clear why, having one point of interconnection was not possible, why it was necessary to have multiple points of interconnection. So, I would support some future rulemaking on this. Anyway, just my thoughts about the case.
But so I guess to respond to both of you, I mean, I do agree that we're not, per the rule, we're not supposed to have a hand in sort of the way the process is administered unless there is a question that the commission hasn't answered before and that question is put before us. So that's the situation that we have here. I think we're dealing with a matter that was not clearly addressed in the commission's prior order, and it has been put before us. And yeah, I guess I'll just restate my concern, which was not explained in the draft order, but that this is a new process where we haven't even tested it, and now we're throwing something out there that is was not vetted through the rulemaking process, and I believe it could be a logical outgrowth of the rule, but it was not explored in a way to make excuse me, to make me feel comfortable that that it's an approach that is fair or technically sound to take. I would favor an approach that sort of analyzes the question to see if aggregated facilities should be considered in the program. Right now, I just don't feel like we have the information to, I guess, say yes.
All good points, Commissioner. I guess that's kind of where I'm struggling is I agree that we don't have the information. I mean, or at least this is pretty foggy. So in that world, which is the proper line to take? I guess my attitude on first time through is the limited approval, because I'm not inclined, I'm not the bidder, I wasn't anybody else. I don't know why decisions that are apparently wrong were made, like it's a wrong decision to not submit a bid fee if you want your bid evaluated. But having said that, again, this was the first time through. So that's what I'm struggling with, and just leaning towards being permissive in this case rather than taking the hard line on bidder didn't follow the rules.
I agree with that, and that I guess I'm also leaning towards being permissive here, although I'm not sure that we would be doing the applicant a big favor. I'm not sure that it's up to them to determine how their bid would be scored against other bids. So I just don't have a sense of that.
Yeah, yet another conundrum. I agree with you there. So I don't know. I really appreciate the discussion. We've got, I think, had a good, from my point of view, sounding of what I've been struggling with. Do we need more discussion, or do we want to just take a vote and see how it lands? Do you want to move for one or the other?
I would move for the version of the order with the text in yellow, which would be the partial granting of the request.
Yes, that'd be partial granting of the eligibility motion and the payment motion with denial of the procedural motion regarding oral argument.
I'll second that. I'll second that, and just want to emphasize that this motion, or the order that we're voting on, instructions to incline are do nothing with these bids until the bid fee is paid. And then the other is there is no presumption that these bids should be treated favorably. I think we got a motion and a second. The roll call the vote, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Aguilera.
No.
Mr. Ellison.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carries 2-1.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is communications with Chief of Staff. I think our Chief of Staff is nearby. Yes. The floor is yours, Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, good morning. Not a whole lot to report this week since I tried to give a pretty comprehensive overview last week. The big news is that the session ended on Saturday at noon. Of the 27 bills that we were following, 13 of them passed both houses and have been sent on to the governor for her signature or not signature as she deems. We do anticipate providing a comprehensive briefer about the legislation that has passed and how it will affect, impact, or change our obligations and operations here. However, we should probably wait until the governor signs all the bills that she's going to sign so that we know how our agency will be impacted at that point. She has until April 7th to sign bills. Bills that are unsigned as of April 7th then become pocket vetoed. And so we will have a clear picture in the coming weeks about the impacts to our agency. Of particular interest, and the bills that we had been following. There were a number of them, but I'm going to highlight two of them. First, we were successful in getting the building bill passed. And so if the governor chooses to sign that, we will be looking at having GSD purchase us a building, the current ERB building. And we would be looking at moving in there. So we would have office space and hearing room space galore, starting probably a timeline on that would probably be middle of fiscal year 25. So it's a ways out still. We wouldn't be looking at anything concrete. The whole process has to take place. But if we're successful in this, we'll probably be looking to move sometime in the late winter or early spring of 2025. The other bill that's worth highlighting that got through is SB 160. That's the bill that transfers our transportation division over to the Department of Transportation. Our staff was really helpful in making that bill better. And so I want to highlight that work and thank them for that. Two of the outcomes that their work resulted in is one, to make that bill not effective until July 1st of 2024. So that coincides with the start of a fiscal year, which untangles a lot of what would otherwise be complicated in assets, in budget, etc. So that will help streamline that process. The other thing that our staff was helpful in getting amended was that the Department of Transportation may adopt rules prior to this transition happening, so that there is a functioning set of boundaries for the department and the transportation division when that move happens on July 1st, 2024. The other thing to note is June 16th is the date for, or the general effective date of legislation, unless the legislation has a specified effective date in it. So that's when the majority of legislation that gets signed by the governor and is impactful on this agency will take effect. As I said, we will be doing a comprehensive briefer for you as to what those changes look like and what we can anticipate our new obligations and duties being. But until that time that we know what the governor signs, we will be working on that, but not finalizing it. I don't have any other updates, and so I stand for questions.
Well, based on the discussion we just had, I asked you to take the lead on organizing a project plan for the various rulemakings. We've got a list of rulemakings I had where the renewable rider, it's, really on the issue of, riders within the RPS rule. Rate case settlement tolling provisions, energy efficiency plans, particularly around gas utilities, inclusions in those rules. And can you add community solar to that list? Because I'm expecting after the bid evaluation process, probably after project selection, as we get into this summer, we'll have learned a lot. So we may want to revisit those rules. So anyway, that was just my request, if you could add community solar to that laundry list of rulemakings that we should be planning for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you and staff for your work on those bills. I do want to touch on one of the bills, which was the PRC changes that did not make its way through approval in the House. Well, actually in the Senate. I think it actually might be a good thing. As I've done more and more research, I don't think that the changes that bill would have provided are needed under the Public Regulation Commission Act. And so I do think they would have provided clarifications. And that's basically what I tried to explain at one of the Senate hearings. However, I don't think that they are needed for us to be able to communicate more effectively. I think we've been too conservative in our approach, and in looking at the law, I think we have more flexibility than we've been working with. That being said, I think there is an opportunity to provide other changes in the future. I think there are some cleanup changes that we might want to do for another legislative session, and perhaps some other clarifications. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I agree as far as changes that we might want to see in the next session. And I anticipate coming before you again, maybe in a month, maybe a little more, to start talking about the work that that I would recommend us doing during the interim to prepare for the next session.
And I just wanted to mention one other bill which passed, the one on the displaced worker definition that deals with the displaced workers from the San Juan generating station closure of units 1 and 4. I was not aware until very recently that those funds have not been dispersed to displaced workers. And I understand that the reason was in how displaced workers were defined previously, and that this new law, the previous law had made a strict time limit of 12 months, as of it defined a displaced worker as someone who had been displaced in the previous 12 months. And by the time that fund was funded by PNM in July 2022, I understand that there had been a number of workers, coal miners, et cetera, who no longer qualified, and that these changes were necessary in order to allow people to qualify and those funds to be dispersed. So I think it's obviously a very positive thing that that was passed, and I hope that compensation is going to be distributed soon. So anyway, I guess that's not a question to you, Ms. Curry, but while we're on the subject of bills, I thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then just in the vein of not a question, but shout out to the staff that worked through this legislative session to put together those FIRs on 24-hour turnaround. Like I said, at previous meetings, I was reading those as the session went on, and I think they held up well. So just wanted to acknowledge the work of your staff to put those together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I might, thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to let you know that our staff received multiple shout outs, commendations from various members of the legislature and other parties for the quality of work that was contained in those FIRs. So really well done to our staff.
I want to also acknowledge that I thought that the FIRs were of high quality, and appreciate that.
Thank you. Final agenda item is communications with commissioners. I don't have any updates other than glad to see you here, Commissioner Aguilera. Welcome to New Mexico.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess just to keep everyone updated on where I live, I guess I'm a Santa Fean now. I do have to change my driver's license and do all that. I think I have a grace period to do that. So, but I just arrived on Monday, so very excited to be here in Santa Fe and to be near, the building and our staff, and again, here at the table with you guys. So thank you.
Glad you're here and glad the trip across country was smooth. I guess I might mention that I've been in touch with one of the national labs, Lawrence Berkeley, who they are involved in some programs of giving some assistance and advice to regulators, and so I'm having some initial conversations with them about what sort of assistance we may be able to receive, and certainly they've got some projects where we can ask some questions that we would like researched, and they can perform that research. So really I think it's a matter of figuring out how our needs map to the program funds that they have, and then formulating a research question properly. Things like what sort of minimum reliability standards for distribution companies are reasonable. I believe that is well within the scope of the type of funding that they have. So I'm continuing to gather data from them and have some initial conversations, and we'll discuss that at a future meeting.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no further discussion, I'll move us towards adjournment. Just as we're getting ready to adjourn this meeting, also wanted to thank our IT staff for dealing with an interesting problem this morning. We almost had another issue where we couldn't meet the notice of our meeting because of the internet was down. So anyway, I appreciate all the efforts, Miguel and Phil and Rico this morning to get us online so we could do our business. And then I propose we adjourn.
I second.
We'll see no disagreement. We are adjourned.